أشرقت نفسي بنور من فؤادي حينما رددت يا رب العباد وانتشت روحي وصار الدمع يجري يا إلهي
75% or 85% of the Muslims on this earth would not be paying zakah. If they were minusing the entire debt, which is long-term debt, then people wouldn't be paying zakat any longer every single year, because almost every single person has debt and they have long-term debt, and it's a massive amount, and it is even more than whatever assets they have on any one given year. Many contemporary scholars are of the opinion that what you do minus is the installments which are due for that year, and not the installments for 20 years, but rather installments for that 1 year. That's what you minus. So if in this year it was due from me, let's say for example 50,000, so in your zakat calculation you minus 50,000 due for that year and not for the other 19 years. And that's a very strong opinion of the contemporary scholars. Another matter which is debatable amongst the scholars, that what happens if someone owes you money. Brother Suleiman owes you 20,000 pounds. You've waited 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, and he's still not paying. So you say to Brother Suleiman, you know what, I know you're in difficulty, etc. Don't pay me that money, you know, and I will minus it and count it as my zakah. Jaid, would that be allowed? Majority of the scholars, the Hanafi, Shafis, Malikis, Hanbalis, majority of the scholars are of the opinion that that is not allowed. Why? They state that when you're giving the money, you need to have the intention that this is zakah. You never intended it to be zakah. Only 3 years later, now you intend, it does not work. Number two, they state that you are benefiting from this, and you are not supposed to be benefiting, rather the poor are supposed to benefit from zakah. You are benefiting how? You are getting rid of this wealth and you are minusing it off, you are offsetting it from your zakah. No, you go and pay your zakah, and also you try to get your money from Brother Suleiman. When he has the ability, he will pay you back. But you don't benefit from the zakah calculations. And the third point, they stated that in reality, you don't really expect this wealth. You're not really expecting to get this money. So if you are not expecting to get it, how can you minus it off in the zakah calculation? You don't really expect it. You don't expect this brother to give you the money, so you are just benefiting 100%, and that would be wrong. We also find scholars differing with regards to a good loan. We spoke about debt, and we saw that the madhab makes a distinction between debts which you expect to receive, and debts where you don't really expect to receive. Where you expect to receive it, you pay zakat on it every single year, either every single year or once you receive it for all of those years. And where you don't expect to receive it, then there is no zakah. If you ever get it, you add it to your normal zakah cycle and you pay zakat on it, walhamdulillah, when the date is due. But the author never made any distinction between trade debt and a good loan. Trade debt, one can understand that it follows on those rulings. But what about a good loan? I lent Brother Suleiman 10,000 pounds because he wanted to help out his father, because he wanted to start some business, because he maybe had an expense in the hospital that he needed to pay. This was a good loan. I'm not making any profit on this, as opposed to trade debt. Usually, once you give and you've given someone installments to pay you back, it's usually in exchange that, you know, due to time, they're going to pay you back a higher price. But what about a good loan? I just lent Brother Ahmed 10,000 pounds because he wanted to get married. Do I add this 10,000 pounds every year in my zakah calculation? If I do, then in reality, it's going to stop me from wanting to help people, because I'm going to lend him 10,000, it's going to be in his hands, and I need to still pay zakat on it. He's benefiting and I need to pay zakat on it. Many a scholar has stated that when it comes to good loans, then you do not pay zakat on it for as long as it's in that person's hands. Once the person gives it back to you, let's say after 5 years, then as soon as you get it, you pay 1 year's zakat on it, even though it was in his hands for 5 years. This is a matter which the scholars are differing and debating about today. Also, the Maliki scholars, for example, if someone passes away in the family and you are supposed to get inheritance, let's say your inheritance is supposed to be 100,000 pounds, but you only received it in your hands after 5 years. So technically, based upon what we already mentioned, according to the madhab of the Hanbali scholars and majority of the scholars, that you expect to receive this 100,000 pounds. It is a debt which is owed to you, and you 100% expect to get it. So according to the madhab, majority of the scholars, you need to pay zakat on that wealth every single year. Either every year, or either once you receive that 100,000 pounds as inheritance, then you pay up zakat for the 5 years. We find many of the Maliki scholars and many contemporary scholars are of the opinion that no. In reality, they state that once you receive the money, then you pay zakat on it for 1 year. Jayyid. And they applied the same rule with regards to a gift which was owed to you, and with regards to wasiyah, someone in the inheritance, they stated that I leave you 10,000 pounds as wasiyah, but due to the estate being mixed up and wound up, you only received the money after 4 years. Did you have to pay zakat on all of those 4 years? The Maliki scholars know, only on 1 year. These are matters which I'm mentioning to you to give you an understanding that there are a lot of matters in the chapter of zakat, especially when it comes to debts, which are debatable, which even the contemporary scholars up till this day are differing about, conference after conference, buhuth and research papers which are still being written. So in reality, there is no fixed 100% final rule on the matter. Similar with the pension fund, that you don't really have access to this wealth, you pay every single year, but you don't have access to it. You can't ask them, you know what, I want all of my wealth right now. You can only access it after 20, after 30 years, once you retire. What happens in that case? Once you receive that wealth, then you pay zakat on it for 1 year, according to many a scholar, and not every single year. Walhamdulillah. With that, we move on to the next chapter, and that is Bab Zakat al-Urud, the chapter pertaining to zakat on trading stock. ولا زكاة فيها حتى ينوى بها التجارة وهي نصاف حولا ثم يقومها فإذا بلغت أقل نصاب من الذهب والفضة أخرج الزكاة من قيمتها. The zakat due on mercantile commodities, on the merchandise. There is no zakat due on merchandise commodities until the owner intends to use them for trade. Until the owner intends to use them for trade. So you go out to the marketplace and you buy a computer, you buy a car. Is there any zakat on this? The answer is no. The default rule is when you buy something, you're buying it for yourself. So there is no zakat on it. But if you bought it with the intention of trading, with the intention of selling it, then the author states, yes, zakat is due on it. And the issue with regards to zakah on trading stock is something which majority of the scholars are in agreement on. Hanafi, Shafis, Malikis and Hanbalis. The Zahiri scholars of the opinion that there is no zakah on trading stock. So once a person purchases this commodity with the intention of trading with it, then it is zakatable. But if you are uncertain, let me buy this car, maybe I will sell it, maybe I won't sell it, I will decide. Is there any zakat due on it? The answer is no, zakat is not due on it. Once you are certain you are buying it for reselling, then zakat is due on it. And not only that, it must constitute a minimum quantity of nisab for a full year. So whatever you buy, it must be above the amount of nisab. Which nisab do we attach with regards to trading stock? We mentioned two opinions. Majority of the scholars go with silver. A very strong opinion to go with the nisab of gold. And you must have it for 1 full year. If this happens, then it is zakatable. So if you bought it to sell it, then it is zakatable. Then the author states, what happens if the opposite occurs? You've now purchased it for reselling. You bought this car for reselling. You bought this horse for reselling. It is trading stock. After 2 months, you decide, you know what, I want to keep it for myself. Is there any zakat due on it? The answer is no. Once you change your intention from trade to keeping, there is no zakat due on the item. Then he states, he must then appraise their monetary value. He must appraise, meaning he must work out its monetary value. And if it comes to no less than a minimum amount of gold and silver, he must pay the alms corresponding to their monetary value. So if you work out the value of this trading stock, you want to work out the value of your trading stock, what price do you use? Your selling price, the purchase price, or the market price? The market price of the day. And the market price of the day is divided into two categories: the retail market price or the wholesale market price. Many a scholar states that you work out, when you are doing the zakah calculation of your business, you work it out on the market wholesale price. The market wholesale price, so that would be an average amount. If we work out on retail, it's a bit too high. If we work out on the price that we bought it, it's a bit too low. So we work out on the market wholesale price. Yuqawwimha, he works out the value, and then 2.5% of that amount you pay in zakah. You don't give off your trading stock in zakah, but rather you pay in the currency. Why? Because the nisab of trading stock is what? Is sheep? Is goats? Is television? Is desks? No. The nisab amount for trading stock is based upon value, based upon what is gold and silver. And when it comes to gold and silver, you pay it in gold and silver. When it comes to the trading stock, you also work out the nisab, which is based upon the gold and the silver, so you need to pay it. You need to pay it in the currency, right? Either in gold, either in silver, or either in currency. So the author states, he must pay the zakat due corresponding to their monetary value. Must pay it in the monetary value and not with trading stock. That's the general rule. That's based upon the fact that, number one, as we mentioned, the nisab is in its value, in its monetary value. Number two, that it is much more beneficial for the poor that you pay them the monetary value of your zakah as opposed to you giving them trading stock. Many a times we find, unfortunately, that many a trader uses this as a loophole. He tries to get rid of his dead stock, and he says this is zakah and that's zakah, and get rid of the stock which is not really moving, that which is not selling, and this is haram for him to do. The only time he can pay his zakah in kind is if it is for the benefit of the poor man. If, for example, you are going to give him money and he's going to buy rice and he's going to buy canned food, then in this case you can give him the rice directly and give him the canned food. But if, for example, you want to get rid of your stock, etc., it's not going to be any benefit for him whatsoever, then the basic rule is that you pay in its monetary value, in gold, silver, or in currency. The Hanafi scholars are of the opinion that you have the option. You can either pay in cash, you can pay in kind. Majority of the scholars know you must pay in cash with regards to trading stock, but you're allowed to pay in kind when it is for the benefit of the poor and not when it is solely for your benefits. The author then continues, if he has some gold or silver in his possession, he must add it to the value of the merchandise when reckoning the nisab. Yes, if you have gold, you have silver, you have currencies, you have trading stock, you have monies which are owed to you, you add them all together, then you minus your debts, your current debts for that 1 year, not the debts which are owed for 20 years. You minus your debts, whatever amount you are left with, 2.5% of that you pay in zakah. So long as the owner intends to use the merchandise, commodities for private purposes, not for trade, they are not subject to zakah. So if you have this car you bought for resale, now you've changed your intention, you want to keep it for yourself, so you don't have the intention of selling it, of trading with it, then there is no zakah due on it. But later, if he intends to use them for trade, his liability for the zakah commences on an annual basis. Oh, so the author states, if you had this car, you bought it for yourself, you used it for 5 years, etc. Now you want to sell it. The author states, once you make the intention to sell it, then from that time, it follows the normal zakah rulings and you will have to pay zakat on it. And that is one opinion of the madhab. The other opinion of the Hanbali madhab is that only when you sell the car, then you pay zakat on it. An example would be the two riwayat, the two narrations of the madhab, and let us see the fruits of this difference. The first riwayah which the author mentions is, I have this car or I have this house and it is worth 1 million. I had it for myself and I've used it for 5 years. Now I want to sell it. I put it on the market. According to the madhab, now that it is put on the market, it is now trading stock. Whether it gets sold, whether it doesn't get sold, it is trading stock. And once a year passes over it, one must pay zakat on it. Whether you sold it, whether you haven't sold it, it is similar to the items in your shop, in your business. From the day that you intended to have it as trading stock, as selling it, then it takes the ruling of trading stock and one needs to pay zakat on it. So if 10 years it was not yet sold but it was on the market, for as long as you had the intention to sell it, one needs to pay zakat on it. That's the first opinion and is rather severe. Second opinion and narration in the madhab is that only once you sell it, then you pay zakat on it. So if it was on sale for 10 years, and many a times a house is like that, you put it on the market for 5 years, it hasn't yet got sold. After 5 years, the 6th year, it got sold. Do you pay zakat for 6 years? No, you pay zakat only for 1 year. And that opinion is the opinion of majority of the scholars and the stronger of the two opinions. Why? Because not necessarily that everything which is put on sale is trading stock. You have your house, you have your car, you have some old furniture in your house that you put on sale. Does it mean that you are now a trader in furniture? That you are now a trader in cars? No. Zakat is on trading stock. This here is to get rid of. Not every, so there is a difference between business and selling something. This is selling something, selling the car, selling the house, getting rid of it. And the other is business. In business, yes, one pays zakat every single year on it. Whether you sold it, whether you didn't sell it. You're a property trader. You have a lot of property. You have a massive portfolio. Every year, whether it's sold, whether it's not sold, you pay zakat on it. But someone else, he's got some property, he had it for some time, and now he wants to sell it. Then in this case here, once he makes the intention to sell it, it does not automatically become trading stock. Rather, once he sells it, then he pays zakat on that wealth. Walhamdulillah.